Well, what is my relationship to abuse of power? What is my relationship to violence in the world? What is my relationship to the hegemony of the country that I come from over the rest of the planet, and how those relationships are then imperiling the entire planet because of climate change, because of the unbelievable abuse of women, and because of the impending threat of a global war. I mean, so those are the kinds of things that I'm trying to interrogate the most assertively. And so part of what intrigues me is moments in which the cinema or in which forms of action and activism rupture with that, when there's a kind of radical displacement of a kind of protocol of behavior, so to speak, right? And so for me, work that intrigues me, excites me, makes me passionate, are works in which that is punctured in some crucial way, through form, but through content and through forms of expression. And in the case of the performance, it's the physical presence of expressing those transgressions, of saying them loudly, of saying them awkwardly, of saying them not precisely in the way that, like, a film is can be very controlled, but a performance has an element of anarchy that's beautiful, and that something that can be unpredictable. And that unpredictability, I think, has a kind of political force, at least when it's done properly.
I couldn't get it out of my head how much the story of Trayvon Martin reminded me of a family legend.
So those are the kinds of things that I think about when I'm doing the performance. I'm trying to take the ideas that I use in my filmmaking and push them as far as I can. I'm trying to have the moment where not only are you confronting a certain transgression of an important thing that should be transgressed. I mean, for example, the racist history of the United States needs to be confronted in a direct way. It doesn't need to be confronted in an indirect way, but it's almost always confronted in an indirect way. And so standing up and asserting yourself about your own family history is a form of transgression in that regard. And to me, the personal has the possibility to be precisely the opposite. By looking sharply inward at one's own family, one can actually see the dynamics that are existing in the world much more clearly. And somehow that relationship between the micro and the macro has become really interesting to me. So is the personal an attempt to avoid looking at the world, or is the personal an attempt to look at the world more clearly? And for me, at least, the goal is the latter. To me, the idea of teaching should be an absolutely circular and completely communal exchange. Like, I don't believe in the grand master giving the knowledge and then it being received, and I think that's all horseshit. I actually increasingly don't even believe in lectures per se. I think that other forms need to assert themselves that have a more dialectical relationship. And so I'm in a place where all of that is real, where I can see work by the students that inspires me, that I can see ideas that haven't occurred to me. The presence, for example, of a very ardent and very articulate kind of radical gender critique of all of these things that's unfolding in this is incredibly powerful to me and incredibly important to me. Usually the most problematic things in society are actually right on the surface, but they're not necessarily articulated. And so being able to look at an image in an archive and to be able to tease out the real meaning of that image, the real power of that image, what it is really expressing about who's in power, who is not in power, who is being oppressed, who's being lifted, those are really fascinating questions to look into, and they intersect precisely with family images, because all of us have some form of family images. Usually we have either a photo album, or we have videos, we have Super 8 films, 8mm films. Nowadays we have things all from our cell phones. And there's something how those very precise images of a family life that seem so banal almost always reveal really profound things. Experimental film is, it's a much more visceral, intuitive, kind of urgent reaction to the world, because it's not contained within packaging. It's not organized around what we're selling. It's not organized around a product, it's organized around a set of ideas and a set of concerns.